Hi! Hey everybody!
Hear ye! Hear ye!
Well, as you may know, due to the unexpected calamity day, we had to cancel school on Expo Night and STEM Fair. But in order to let the parents and families and community members out there see the work our kids do, we still had an in-person version of that here during the day. It was a little abbreviated version, but it was one nonetheless. If you weren't able to make it, you can check out this video and see all the cool work that our kids do. Here it is, Expo Night, Ignite, and some STEM Fair as well. Go Geese!
So this is a houseplant horticulture project about houseplants and different types of plants that we grew from clippings of plants that are back there or in the sphere outside. So this is basically the plants that everyone's growing, and some of them are experiments, but this side is mostly the students' plants. So we just paired up and planted different plants in there. And then in here is all of the plants that they usually came from, which this is one of them that I have right now and that Finn has. But they mostly came out of in here. So all these plants were numbered, not all of them, but some of them. But they were mostly all numbered to where we could plant them. We put water in a jar and then we put the clippings inside of the jar. And then once they started rooting, like this one, we ended up taking soil that we made ourselves, and then we ended up putting them in a pot like this. You could also start growing seeds from a packet. This is cactus, hasn't really sprouted yet. Before we did put them in a jar, we did take photos of them. Those are the before, and these are all the afters. And all these plants really started from basically nothing, from a clipping to a giant houseplant.
So the process of putting the trimmings in the water is called hydroponics, creating roots while plants are just submerged in water. A good example of this project was my mint, and it started with about 8 trimmings and then came out, and now it's 2 plants, and I'm creating 3 more plants out of it now. Another one is Joseph's. This is a white princess philodendron. He grew this out of like 3 trimmings, and now it's grown into, if you can see, there's 5 leaves coming out and then a new one right here about to sprout.
Survive. Protect this message for our country.
This might actually break.
My STEM fair, it's about extracurriculars and if they affect your physical and auditory reflexes. I did the STEM fair because I was in physical therapy because of my knee, and my mom, she struggles with hearing, and I was wondering if extracurriculars could help. My hypothesis was that people involved with sports will have a better physical reflex than people who are not involved in sports, and then for music, the same thing, just with music. The materials I used for this project are tennis balls, participants, notebooks, pens, and computers and headphones. For this, I tested my STEM fair by tossing tennis balls at 20 people from each group, 20 people that are in athletics, 20 people in music, lead, and then 20 people that just were not involved in. any. I tossed the tennis balls at them from 5 meters away, and then for the music, I had them put headphones in and I played a sound to see how fast their reaction time was. After that, I collected my data and analyzed it, and I came to the conclusion that athletes had a higher physical reflex, and then it came with music and then none. But it was really close. So I guess overall with my results, my hypothesis was correct, although it did not show as great as a difference for the physical reflexes. So that was my conclusion, and then I'd like to thank my teachers and my participants for helping with this project.
I'm Esme, and this is my glow project I made in Mr. West class. We used styrofoam balls, and we cut them open with a styrofoam cutter. I can't remember what it was called that we used, but it was something we had to heat up, and it was very thin. It was like a needle almost, and we just cut through it and it went straight through it. We painted the insides as we were studying what each layer meant and what they did, and then we labeled them. I always thought styrofoam was used just using a regular knife or something, not normally something you heat up. So I learned how to use that and what all it's used for. So I learned about all the different layers and what each of them does and how they contribute to earth structure.
In Miss Miller's advisory, we did a project, Extinct or Alive, and this area is paw prints of different animals that was in the Thylacines habitat. You have to look at the animal prints and then look at the picture, match the prints with the animal picture. That's the Tasmanian devil. We took 1 cup of salt, 1 cup of flour, and 1 cup of water and mixed it up and made it into dough.
Continuing the Extinct or Alive project, we have poop display. So basically what we're doing here is we're displaying poop, and each one has what's written on the bottom, and people get to guess what it is. So this one right here is a cow. There's a couple of them. And then this one is a dingo, which is also in the Tasmanian tiger family. And then this one right here is a Tasmanian tiger. So basically, you just get to guess what they are, and that's what's going on right here. And this is the facts about all of them and who they're related to.
So these are some artwork I've done from Art 1. This is from the very start of the semester, and as you can see, I couldn't really shade that well. The only thing I shaded on was the eye. These are regular color pencils. That's a mechanical regular color pencils, and that's pen. And then as the semester went on, she showed me what charcoal color pencils are, and that's what I used on this. And the charcoal can blend really well, and so that I would do a base coat of black, and then I'd go over with white to make the highlights. And then right here, in order to make this part look realistic, I had to figure out what colors to use to match the reference. And so You would think this would just be like a darker yellow, but it's actually brown mixed with yellow. And then this is like just dotting. And so I had to use brown to like add highlights, big dots, little dots, in order to like fill in different spaces. All of this is done with a mechanical pencil, but this tongue right here and the gums are with charcoal. And that's how I got the highlights to look like that. And then this is the first time we tested with watercolor. And I was kind of rusty because I've never really used it that much, but it still turned out pretty nice. And this is how my watercolor looks now. This is clay. We molded the clay and then we glazed it and put it in the kiln. And I did the snake too, but it kind of fell apart, so it looks a little rough. And this is one of my favorite projects I did with charcoal colored pencil. I used a picture of some regular pumpkins. I just tried to match the colors as best as possible. I really like this one right now. This is the most recent one I've done. My shading, definitely, because like when I first started, I couldn't shade without a reference, and so like this is how my shading would look. But now I can shade like that, and like even with the watercolor, I was able to shade. And so I used black for all this, but with watercolor, you just have to add water to like change the color. And so this was like a little bit of water, and that's why it was so dark. This is a whole bunch of water, which made it really light. And then I like in between where you get the highlights and stuff. And then for the red, I just dipped it into some red paint and like flipped the brush like that over. I'm taking art 2 next semester, and then my senior year I'll be taking college art 1, and then I'll be taking graphic art.
So in our geometry class, we made these string art projects. We started off by making our image in Illustrator, and then we had to draw out our 4 pre-shapes here. And then we had to do the math to figure out where all the points of our post image will be. And then we map it out here, and then that turns into our string arts. So Illustrator is what we use to draw our images. It's kind of like Photoshop, but there's more to do in there, I'd say. We had to set our grid snap to 1, so every point's on a grid line. And then we had to make the entire shape in Illustrator, make our pre-image here with 4 of the shapes, make the rest of the shapes on this one using the math, make the final image on here, and then make it on these string arts on these foam with nails and string.
All right, this is English 2, and this is my project. It was about gun violence, and I talked about how it starts and like how we could possibly prevent it. I made this on Canva, and I basically just put all the information in there and found a picture.
Basically, my job was to find the thing that was in current events. I picked inflation, as you can see. I picked inflation because I feel like it's a heavy topic going on right now. A lot of people are dealing with it, not just mothers. So I talked about mothers, single mothers dealing with inflation. And I just feel like that was a good topic to discuss because upon a time, my mom was a single mom, and I understand that was like very stressful with buying stuff, with prices getting raised and stuff like that. So that's what I wanted to do.
How'd you make it?
I made it on Canva. The color didn't come out because we had to print it, but I made it on Canva. It was a part of the digital art, so.
Solid.
Get it done. Yes, sir.
I'm in English 2, and we made charcuterie boards for our advisory. And this didn't work because my print was too dark for like the wood burner. So it came out like everything was all jumbled together and didn't work. It worked well for others, but since this one's so small and it had like different colors on there, it didn't print right. That's why it's all like dark up here. Just so it looked like mummy wrap, but thank you.
Victor. I go to Golden Alexander Academy, and this is Mr. Kluge's class. For this project, we're mainly focusing on voting and how it works, everything that comes with it, and why you should vote. And we all did a project on basically doing whatever we want, as long as it explains voting rights, basically. And what I did, we made a video that's part live action and animation, and it's just a short film highlighting the basic instructions on how to vote. Like normal animation software, I believe it was this app called Flip, and then we downloaded the animation on our phones and then airdropped them to our computer. It's actually very easy to learn how to register to vote, how to vote entirely, and that it's not really a super complicated procedure.
So I did my bioluminescence project in Miss Wright's class. Me and my partner Cami chose the crystal jellyfish. This was the first page. There's the second one. There's the third. We learned about how animals can glow because of a chemical reaction. And we also learned, if you turn this around, we learned how to do soldering in Miss Clark's class. And we learned how to make circuits. So let me just... And we learned how to use buttons so that this would turn on. Maybe? Yeah, see? So we used a laser printer to cut out the pieces of wood, and then we painted them. And then we used a soldering iron, and we soldered this together, all the wires, to make the light turn on.
This is my STEM fair project. My name's Simon. My project was about how clovergrass affects soil erosion. Soil erosion is a big problem today, so I wanted to see how we can solve it because my mom's a gardener, so she deals with erosion from her soil. My hypothesis was if 2 turbidity samples are measured, then the one with clovergrass over it will not erode the soil. The stream table was built by drilling plastic holes into a tub and then putting these like elbow things on it so water can go through it. I don't know if you can see it, but we put this cloth over it so then the water won't take as much soil with it. So then we put dirt and then the clovergrass seeds over it and then sand, so then it will grow better. I let it grow for 2 weeks and then I watered it every couple days. After that, we put the bins at a 30-degree angle, I think. And then we poured water into it. We measured the turbidity of it. So we went into this Home Depot bin and we took samples every 2, 3, 5 minutes. We then measured the samples, the turbidity of it, and the clovergrass only had a 48.9 NTU compared to the only soil one, which had a 281.15 NTU, which basically just shows the amount of suspended particles in the dirt, in the water. Yeah, my hypothesis was proven correct. So based on this small scale, it would help having a cover crop on it. I would like to thank Ms. Flommer for helping me out with basically all of it. She helped me do the actual project too because there's just so many moving parts to it.
So this tree inhabits the ivory-billed woodpecker.
The last known sighting was in Louisiana in 1944. Most likely the reason that it went extinct is because of poaching and or deforestation of the swamps.
Its main habitat is in Louisiana, living in the swamps, and its main diet consists of beetle larvae and fruit. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I'm a tree, guys.
And then we have the wanted posters all over the building. We believe they are extinct.
The bird's name is Gary, and the tree's name is Arden. both of us think is extinct because there is a very similar looking woodpecker that's called the pileated woodpecker, and all of the videos that are proof, they look like the pileated woodpecker, so we don't think that it's accurate.
I think it's extinct because there is no known proof. The last official sighting was all the way back in 1944. And like she said, there is this very similar woodpecker, which all the videos are very blurry, so you can never tell.
There's a lot of videos that show that it could potentially be one, and if you make out the shapes and the colors and whatnot, it looks really similar. Also, I know two people who say they've seen it, so.
You do?
Yes.
I think that if it wasn't dead in 2000, then it's definitely dead now.
Hi, we're from Mr. Williams Advisory, and this is our nuclear reactor. This is supposed to look like what's on the TV over there.
On the very far side of the TV, it's like a container with uranium in it, and it gets really, really hot because it's uranium. So our hot plate is our showcase of uranium. So the steam goes through from this container, it goes through the tube and through the inner coil. So once it goes through the inner coil, it goes back around all the way through back to the flask. And the steam on the inside of the coil should get the water on the outside of it hot enough to create steam that goes through here. There's water that's going through here that's actually very, very cold because this doesn't get hot enough because it's not uranium. And that's not something you can showcase very well because it's uranium and it will get so hot.
So through this cup, this water is going through a pump down in there, and then, okay, so there's a straw and then a pump. You can see that part from the front. And then you go down here, and this part is going through this water pump to go into here to make all the water cool. And then it comes back down into here, which we need to pour more water in there. This part is the fan. It helps all the steam rotate out of the reactor to make the heat go away.
So what this is supposed to show is on the TV you can see from the middle piece that is green all the way over to the fan where it looks like it's blowing steam down onto a fan. So since this doesn't get hot enough, this red tubing, steam won't come out of it because it's not hot enough. It's really just cold water, but the steam is supposed to make this fan spin. But since we can't do that, we have a motorized fan that's just battery powered instead to show that it does, that's how it would spin.
We 3D printed this part of it.
And that's really just a model to show what a stack looks like.
Oh, and also our fans are 3D printed from the 3D printer downstairs too.
So that's our showcase of a nuclear reactor.
Hi, this is Ms. Steckel's advisory, and today we're going to learn about renewable energy. In this class, we went to the State House and learned about electrical cars. If you want to come over here with me, here's an electrical car that one of our students built. Okay, well this one doesn't work. It would usually use this battery power to spin this propeller and then roll like that. Today, we actually presented some of our renewable energy projects that we got. If you come over here, this is our project, Biomass. Here, we borrowed cars from Miss Sanders, biofuel cars, and learned how to use them with the biofuel. So basically, the biofuel sits in here, which will ignite this wick, which will go through this tube and go through the U-tube and start this piston. This is an example of biofuel. Soybeans, or corn, or flowers, even wood. If you come over here, this is wind power.
Hi, welcome. We got wind power. And what me and my friend Cindy did was we built a wind turbine that is giving power to our house.
What do you think of the State House when we went, and how you learned about electrical vehicles and renewable energy?
It was really cool. Definitely learned stuff I never knew before.
Thanks, Chuck. If you come over here, here is the water energy, hydropower. So they built a water wheel here, and they're using this thing to create power. Over here is solar power. Could you tell us what you built, Sam?
So we built a solar tower. The sun just reflects light off of these mirrors and hit the solar panels up here, which we're attempting to charge these batteries down here.
And then if you come over here, there's geothermal.
So we're doing geothermal energy for our project, and we made a mud pit. Geothermal energy is a natural heat that comes from the core of the earth and uprises to the surface, which could do with mud pits, volcanoes, and geysers. We have a live action video of a geyser of how it works.
When it comes to using heat from the inside, if you dig up to 40,000 feet under the Earth's crust,
there is a certain part where it stays the same temperature all year round. So during the summer, since it is cooler than what it is up here, people are using it to cool their greenhouses or cool down their own homes. But during the winter, since it's warmer down there, they use it to supply them hot water, heat their homes or their greenhouses to keep their crops fresh. One thing we learned from the State House was how different types of things go into action, like bills or laws, how they get passed. We got to tour the building. They explained to us how the architect was part of the original design.
Thanks for watching today and learning about our geothermal, solar power, biomass, and fossil fuel today.
We are making Christmas cards with soy ink. We combined Kool-Aid mix for the color along with water. Then we added soybean oil and along with some soy lecithin. And then we came over, we poured the soy mixture onto these sponges. And then what people will do is grab a card, grab a stamp. They will stamp the stamp onto the sponges, get the ink, and then put it down onto the card. And ta-da. And it smells like Kool-Aid.
It's soy-based, so it's just organic.
Where am I? It's just so beautiful. I am in heaven? Yes.
So what we did was the Biodiesel Lab. We made biodiesel, and we put it into these little cars right here. And when we set it on fire, this part right here is kind of like the engine. So once it was on fire, we waited like what, 5 minutes?
Around 10 is the best.
Around 10 minutes.
Traps all the heat, and then it's kind of like a mini steam engine. Is kind of what it is. So it probably should be good. Not quite to go, but like after a while, it will heat up. And the steam engine will run completely well to use all the steam power to like launch itself and propel itself. And it can go for quite a while and quite fast. Like different types of biodiesel might perform better to like make it, there's like methane, you use KOH to start the reactant, and it just kind of forms into like a renewable fuel source. Just a cool like way to show how you can like have more sustainable ways for stuff like that. We kind of mixed them together and like the different chemicals together, and it kind of set overnight, and then we would take out like what had been refined separately from the byproducts, which would be like glycerin, and you can make that into soap and plastic.
Yeah, originally we were going to use the steamboats, but we didn't end up using these, and she got these little cars.
Yeah. You can see it's kind of going, but not quite. It doesn't have enough power.
So in here we are making crayons out of soy. The soy is typically found in these pellets or flakes, which will then be melted down in a beaker. The soy crayons that we are making are going to be 85% soy wax and then 15% of other types of waxes such as natural carnauba wax. But essentially it's going to be 85% and 15% mixture. We melt them down in the beaker, and we then have a tray that we will pour them out on. You let them cool for around 48 hours, and then they will pop out of the trays, and we are trying to find out the quality of the crayons. Obviously, if they're going to be given to younger audiences, you need to make sure that they're safe, not poisonous, as well as good for actual writing capabilities. So we always do the smear test, which is where we put it all in a very small area, and we take our thumb and we move it across and see how far it smears, because that gives us a general idea about how well we did when it came to like proportioning the different materials. They are also doing the soy-based Crayon Lab. I think they're using natural coloring as well. I think that's what this one is. Yes, this is beet. So this gives them their, it's like a reddish pinkish color that they're looking for. And then they also got some other materials such as this, which will give them the brown color if they're looking for it. Right now it seems as though they are melting it down. So you can see there's about 85% wax there, as well as some other ingredients that they added. And we've really just been messing around with different ingredients because we're trying to find the right consistency that we're looking for. Some of the crayons that we've had have been a little too runny and others have been a little too stiff. The experimentation process will likely take numerous attempts, but the end product will be worth it. Well, thank you.